Yeah, I thought today our offense was on point, to score 95 points on a day where the three-point shot really wasn't helping us out much. How did we do it? We took care of the ball, low turnover game. We got to the free throw line. We had a special emphasis in this game for shot selection in the paint. Bryant was one of the best shot blocking teams in college basketball. I think they entered today's game like the fifth best shot blocking team in college basketball. And for where I was sitting, I don't think they got their hands on one block. So that was an emphasis in practice, and give our players a lot of credit for executing the game plan. So we did a lot of really good things offensively tonight against a team that has an identity, changing defenses on us, picking us up a little bit. So I thought offense was one of our cleanest games. On the other end of the floor, we're just a work in progress. I wasn't pleased with the way we played defensively today. This team has two dominant scorers, and we let both those guys get going. We just got to continue focusing on defense, and it's going to be a big part of our SEC journey.
Speaking of not turning the ball over, that's something you haven't done all year. And that's with a lot of new guys too. What's really been what allowed y'all to maybe cultivate that and get that, as a strength for this team so early?
It starts in recruiting, and each system, each coach, each program, each organization tries to recruit to their ideals. And so one of the things of many is we really think the game can be played in the best way possible if you take care of the ball. I'm not a big fan of coming down and just handing the other team the ball. So certainly when you start thinking about NCAA tournament time, when you're trying to win 6 games in 3 weekends, you can't always rely on shooting or this kind of execution. But what you can rely on is just a commitment to take care of the ball. I think for the most part in our 13-game non-conference schedule, the guys have embraced that. Hasn't always been perfect, but I think there is an understanding in our program that we're trying to take care of the ball. We're trying to have great assist-to-turnover ratios in our playmakers, and everybody that plays for Ole Miss has a responsibility, not to give the ball to the other team.
I know you're no stranger to winning right away at the places that you've been. What does it mean to you personally to tie the best start that this program has had ever?
Yeah, I think when I think of those kinds of things, I just think of the players. The players deserve all the credit, with Matt and Brake and TJ and Rob and those guys that chose to come back, and trusted us in the coaching change, and certainly the players we recruited, both high school and portal. I'll say this about records and things. Like, if we're going to do the things that we want to get done here and why we came to Oxford, there's going to be a lot of records that need to be approached and broken over the years and over the next months and weeks. And so, I think our non-conference schedule proved a lot. To me, it proved that we can play on the offensive end and defensive end. We're still striving for that consistency, but I don't think that's any different than any other team. I don't think our schedule's gotten the respect that it should. We're one of very few BCS teams that played 2 true road games. We played opponents from the Big 12, the ACC, the Pac-12. We played NCAA tournament teams from last year. We played top 25 teams. So I think the schedule challenged us in a lot of ways, and I think for the most part we've answered the call. So to have 13 wins going into SEC play doesn't mean anything on Saturday when the ball goes up, but I think just to take a quick second and reflect, a lot of work went into these wins in November and December, and so I think the players deserve all the credit.
Coach, congratulations on your milestone undefeated non-conference schedule. I want to ask you about your time under Bobby Knight and kind of tampering the expectations and not getting ahead of yourself and taking one game at a time. What did you learn under Coach Knight, and how are you using that now at Ole Miss and your previous stops as well?
Yeah, I learned a lot from Coach, obviously. It's like getting a PhD in coaching every day, and was with him almost every day for multiple hours, for 8 years. And then after Coach retired, certainly continued a relationship. When I think of Coach, I also think of Pat Knight. I have no better friend, mentor in basketball and in life than Pat. So many things from Coach, but one thing we did learn from Coach, including other coaches I've worked for, is the biggest game is the next game on the schedule, period. Anybody that feels any different doesn't understand how to win at this level. So the ability to just to approach each game like it's a season in itself is really important to us, from preparation to execution of game plans and just to be ready to play each night. And I think our guys did a good job. I don't know if I'm going to say great job. I think we're off to a good start. We're starting to embrace the idea that what we do is more important than the opponent. And I think we're in a good spot right now. We'll kind of see. SEC is obviously going to bring a whole nother level of challenge, but I think we have a chance to be competitive, and I don't think anybody would disagree with that.
What are you most curious about that SEC play might teach you about this team?
Never been asked that, man. Curious word. When I think of curious George, and the guy with the raincoat and the hat. No, I mean, I'll say this: like when you enter conference play, it's all about consistency, and you dissect anybody's non-conference schedule in the SEC, and you'll find plenty of reasons to justify why this team can be a real factor. On the other side of the coin, every team has some things they're continuing to try to clean up, and we're no different. But I think as we continue to embrace defense, as we continue to embrace possession-by-possession basketball, I do think we have a chance to be competitive in the SEC, and that was always one of our objectives this first year. I think there's a way to win every game on the schedule that's remaining, and we'll do our best to put our players in a position to have a chance to do that.
What's the early evaluation of Tennessee and just opening in Knoxville? Just what are your thoughts on that and previewing that game away?
Yeah, obviously, me personally, I haven't started preparing for that game, but I do know a lot about Tennessee. Coach Barnes is a friend of mine. He's a mentor of mine. So I always follow his teams. This year's no different. What we know about Tennessee is we know they have an identity, a culture. It's based on defense and rebounding. It's based on toughness, both physical and also mental. Tennessee is one of those teams that's not going to beat themselves. So when you get into a 40-minute game against a Coach Barnes team, you're going to have to play well. And I know that's like Captain Obvious, but that's what it comes down to. We'll have X amount of possessions in the game, and we'll have to hold our own in many of those possessions. We'll have to win some of those possessions, and we got to make sure that we don't get beat in a game of runs. But nothing but respect for Coach and Tennessee, and it'd be a great challenge for our team to open league play playing in Knoxville.
You mentioned Rob briefly a moment ago. Is there a timetable when we might see him back in action?
Yeah, right now Rob is basically, I would say, kind of not day to day, but probably 2 to 3 days at a time. Trying to get him some much needed rest right now. And so this was important for us coming after Christmas, just to give him some rest. He continues to work on his conditioning, so when his number's called, he'll be ready. But we're evaluating that thing every 2 or 3 days with the medical staff.
You've been a lot of different places and instilled both culture and system. How do you feel like this team stacks up with some of your other stops as far as first-year teams with culture and system?
Yeah, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about that. But I'll say this about this year's team. We're definitely still a work in progress. But the buy-in to this point has been where it needs to be. And it'll have to continue. I've always thought college basketball, there's 3 seasons within the season. You have your non-conference schedule, you have your conference schedule, then you have your postseason. And with each new season, you've got to get better. And that's not just basketball. The mental side of it, your culture, your identity, the things that you believe in have to continue to strengthen. In my opinion, nobody's kind of staying the same this time of year. You're either trending up and you're getting better, or you're going the other way. And so I think with our team, lots of positives, but those are things to reflect on, in April and May. Right now, we're right in the middle of the storm, but I do think our non-conference schedule proved to ourselves, more important than anybody, that we have the talent in that locker room. It's just a matter of continuing to push and get better and embrace each day.
What are, I guess, your benchmarks with Brandon and I guess to a lesser extent Musa, because he's been playing for a little bit longer, just to kind of getting them up to speed? Where do you see them at right now, having come in mid-year?
Yeah, first of all, I think it's very challenging to enter a team after lack of playing in games, after lack of playing in practice and Musa's play. So it starts by just understanding this isn't easy. You don't just go out there and everything clicks. So the first thing to me is the mental side, and both guys are executing that well. From where I'm sitting in my relationship with those guys, they're just embracing one thing, and that's how can I help the team and the opportunities that I get. So the mental side to both guys has been well, and I have a lot of respect for those guys. Basketball, it's still getting your feet under you. I thought Musa played really well at times today, but you see the fatigue kicking in, and he's just got to continue to fight through that. And with Brandon, they just went so long without playing. It's just about getting the rust off, and I thought Brandon played really well against Southern Miss, continue that today. So it's no secret that we need both of those guys to be a big part of what we plan on doing here in January and February and March. I think both guys have embraced a really difficult situation about the best you can. And so now it's just about with each minute, with each opportunity, just continue to get back to who those two guys are, which in my opinion, are two of the better players in college basketball.
We're waiting for Coach.
Appreciate you guys. Happy New Year.